Good evening, and welcome to CITI Media Reporter. I'm Howard Hominoff. Our guest tonight is Salil Dalvi, Senior Vice President of Digital Distribution at NBCUniversal. Salil, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You are working and you've been there for some time, one of the iconic names, brands in the global media spectrum. And we're now a couple of weeks into the traditional fall television season. Give me a sense of, growing up, that was the most exciting time of getting the TV guide at the supermarket and all that. What does the fall TV season mean now in the universe we're in? How, it's obviously different, but what does it mean still within a major brand, a major company like NBC?
Well, fall season is still an anchor for all of the major broadcasters, and it's a period during which a lot of new shows premiere. So it's very exciting for all of the broadcast industry, and it remains an important part of the television landscape. But clearly, television gets programmed year round nowadays, so it's got a little bit of a different meaning within the industry overall than it has in years past.
And from your focus is digital distribution and kind of all that entails. Are there special, from a marketing perspective or content perspective, things that you're trying to do to hook into kind of the focus of that, the seasonal launches that come about?
Well, typically you will have most broadcasters will launch new digital products around the fall season tied to either new shows or existing shows, very often in partnership with advertisers who have bought advertising during the upfront buying season. So it is an important time of the year to both premiere new shows and premiere new digital products. So across most companies, you see sort of it's game time during the fall season.
And you mentioned the upfront market, which was in the spring, and the broadcast upfront market. And the conventional reporting about it was kind of soft this year, sort of whether expectations were too high or you never quite know. But what's the perception of it from NBC? And is it anything more than that's what it was this spring, or is there something more, kind of transforming going on around that?
Well, I won't talk specifically about sort of our view of the upfront financially or whether it's up or down, but what I can say is that the upfront over the last few years has changed from being just the traditional fall season purchasing to a period where the advertising community and the broadcasters and the media industry in general are talking about sort of multi-platform advertising and lots of different services and offerings that they can go to the market with. So it's no longer just one thing. It does include a lot of other types of discussions as well. But that being said, the core of it is still essentially the same as it has been in years past, which is big advertisers make big commitments to the shows that they want to purchase for the year ahead.
What kind of education or understanding do you see amongst the advertising agency, branding community about kind of the value of the new products you're trying to bring to the market, new apps, and as they're into discussions of where to place billions of dollars of bets, how much are they getting or understanding what it is you're trying to do?
So I would separate the billions of dollars of buying from the digital products, because the digital products are fundamentally smaller than the core business. But what I would say is that the digital products are increasingly important because that's where consumers are starting to find and consume a lot of their video programming. What I would say is that the advertisers are becoming much more sophisticated about how they buy digital advertising, and it's reflected in the types of ad creative and the ad products that are available to various marketers. And I think the interesting thing that we see over time is that it's no longer just display ads or just pre-roll ads. There's a lot of interactivity in the advertising that marketers purchase, and they're much more sensitive to how are they building using digital to build the relationship with their customers on an ongoing basis. So clearly, big media companies have an important role to play because they have the media and they have the brands that most marketers want to associate themselves with. But I would characterize advertisers as significantly more sophisticated today than they had been in years past.
So let me get concrete about some of the kind of examples of some of these products that you've been working on, developing, trying to take to the market, and a little bit about your approach to it, and then specifically what sorts of things are out there now that you're particularly excited about.
Right. So over the past few years, we've worked a lot on live television and bringing live broadcast television to mobile devices in particular. And the venture that I've been working on is a product that actually uses our broadcast spectrum to deliver live television to mobile devices in a way that consumers don't have to use their data plan and don't have to connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot. The benefit to the consumer is that they have potentially a less expensive and a better user experience. So they don't have to pay for data, and they don't have to deal with the crowded use of Wi-Fi.
And what's the business model? What would the business model be for that? Is the model kind of like cable, dual revenue stream? You've got the subscribers kicking in something to make it work, and the advertiser or the marketer pays something as well?
So there are a number of business models. The core of the business is an authenticated business model in which if you're a cable or satellite subscriber, then you would get access to this service at no additional cost. But the nature of the technology, because it's mobile, because it's a separate device, enables us as media companies to do two things. Number one, create new advertising products that could target users on those specific devices and take advantage of the interesting things that we can do with couponing or location-specific advertising that's unique to mobile devices. The second thing that we could do is to create special content products that are tailored specifically to the mobile device. So whether it's offering subscription packages that are tailored only for the mobile device or events that are available on that device, those are all opportunities that we have. But again, the core is this is a product that the consumer gets if you are a cable or satellite subscriber, and as a cable or satellite subscriber, hopefully this type of product bolsters the value of that service for that consumer.
So within Comcast, you've got kind of two sides of the authentication coin, right? You've got the cable operator, you've got the content distributor. What's been your experience, not just with Comcast, but more broadly with distributors and kind of the authentication process? How difficult, daunting is the technology of it, or is it more of a business model issue? Kind of how are you seeing that? What some call TV everywhere, and authentication is more from inside the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at TV everywhere, I think there are a number of dimensions to it. There's the consumer-facing question of how does it work and how easy is it as a consumer to get my credentials and log in. There is a business model question around, well, what's the value of those rights and those services for various distributors. And then there's the actual just execution question of how do you actually turn it into real usage? Does the business model get in the way of the consumer's enjoyment or access to the product? I don't think that's a problem at this stage, but I think there's clearly a lot of education that has to go into just bringing consumers to TV everywhere products and making them accessible and useful for consumers.
And do you see, what do you see in terms of content and the interest in consumers in the mobile space? Is there a big difference early on between news and entertainment or music? What do you what is at least early experience and beginning to tell you about that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Early on, what we saw was that live weather, sports, news, things that were happening immediately tended to be very, very important to consumers. The other area on mobile that's very important to consumers is kids programming. The idea of being able to hand your child an iPad or an iPhone while you're in the store or in the car is really an important one for the average consumer, and that's shaped kids' behavior as well.
Yeah.
I think that as we go forward, the open question is if you talk to the average consumer, watching a long-form television show on their mobile device is not the centerpiece of what they would do on a mobile device, but it is clearly something that they do on a mobile device. And so you have to be able to service their needs by offering that content on the device. But you can't expect that to be what's going to drive the business going forward. I do think where you look at the mobile device, it is clearly the device to get that immediate, instant information that's relevant to you at a particular moment, based on where you are, based on what time of day it is, based on what is happening right now. If there's a news event, the mobile device is often the first device that the consumer goes to. So I look at the mobile device as really being the core device for discovery of content, because it's right there and it's so personal. Whether you're at home or you're away from home, I think that mobile device is sort of your first screen. And then maybe you project it on the TV, maybe you watch it on your laptop, maybe you watch something on your iPad, maybe you watch it on the mobile device. But it's that sense of, well, this is the device that's mine, and this is the one that helps me find what I want to consume. I think that's the role of mobile in a lot of this media environment.
And how about you mentioned the word discovery. Is the discovery of the new part of this, or is it, I just want to find the stuff, my stuff that I always, kind of always watch, a show or a Jon Stewart clip or whatever it might be. I know for the music business, finding ways that people will discover new music is a big focus. How about, what are you finding around video and mobile? If there's any data that tells you what's going on yet?
I think the data question is early. I don't think there's a lot of behavior at scale that can lead to really truly meaningful conclusions, other than we know that people check their Twitter feeds and their Facebook news feeds. Right. We know that they click on video. We know that they share content through these platforms. But what I think you're asking is, are people using mobile to find new things, or are they using it to reinforce habits that they have?
Yeah.
And I think there's both. Really convenient, cagey answer, but let me explain that. Number one, it is a personal platform. I think everyone wants to have the comfort of the familiar combined with the ability to find new things and the excitement of the new. I think when you look at your Facebook newsfeed, for example, you see your familiar friends and the people that you know sharing new things with you that they might like. So you do end up subscribing to a lot of content through your social media platforms that are already things that brands that you trust and people that you trust. But when those trusted sources end up being a great way to present things that you might be interested in, because they have a higher hit rate of finding you and being interesting to you. Because they've come from trusted sources, because they've come through folks that you have actually subscribed to or that you have entrusted to direct you. So from that perspective, I think social in particular, on the mobile platform, because it's yours and yours alone, I think that combination enables you as the average consumer to use your mobile device to find new things, but also check in with your existing existing stuff very easily. And I think the personalization, the fact that it's customized to what you want, and it's aware of your mindset to some extent, and it changes based on the context that you're in. I think those are the things that make mobile a really unique platform for both discovery and just reinforcement.
And how about looking at it, from a perspective of especially around video? Well, no, not exclusively, but what about as between different social platforms? And kind of, is there one or some that work better for you, that are better partners or more relevant between Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, to the extent that those are much in the equation now? But where do you have, favorites or the ones that work best for you amongst them?
So I really think it depends on what your brand or what your company or media company is trying to accomplish. Talking from the perspective of Dial, we really use social media as a way to create awareness and to help build the relationship with the existing audience that we had. And so from that perspective, we found that because we were a new brand and we were just beginning to grow, the biggest platforms made the most sense. So Facebook and Twitter are really the platforms that we focused on. And what we really focused on with regards to both of those was sharing behavior and how are people amplifying what we have to say and reinforcing what we have to say with their friends. And if they did share things, then that was an indicator to us that there was something of value that we were presenting to them. So it's a good way of helping us determine sort of true north of, well, is this something that consumers want or not? And it's not the only thing. I think there are a lot of other signals that you can derive that meaning from, but from the Dial perspective, understanding how people shared our message and our content and our story was a good indicator to us of whether or not we were resonating with at least a particular core of people.
It seemed like maybe a year ago or more, the term second screen got a lot more attention than you sort of hear now. And some terms go in and out, but services like GetGlue and are those still those, I'll call them separate, apps? They are separate from a Facebook or Twitter. Are they a part of the kind of arsenal, or are Facebook and Twitter just so dominant that it's hard for anybody else to be a big player in that?
So I think when you think about digital, you've got dominant players until they're no longer dominant.
Right.
And so these things change so fast. Yeah. So I'm very hesitant to say Facebook and Twitter are so dominant that there's no room for someone else to play an important role. I think one of the hidden and interesting stories in all of this is Shazam, who helps consumers discover music and
yep.
Create more interactivity to the television experience. I think that's an example of a service that is now Shazam is embedded into the Siri product. You can actually, without having to go to a separate app, you can figure out what song is playing in the background. So I'm very hesitant to say one platform is winning, or just because they're winning today,
right,
are they going to be the dominant player? But I think the big question when you look at this concept of second screen, I think ultimately the mobile screen, that personal screen, is your first screen. I mean, I think that's the screen that you use to determine, all right, is this something I feel that is worthy enough to click through or to project and share or to amplify by distributing to other people? I think that mobile screen is your first point of destination because it represents who you are individually, more so than really any platform that's come before it. So yes, it's a companion screen with the big screen in many cases, but I may be watching a football game with my smartphone and looking up stats of who's playing. My wife may be looking up what was the song that was playing in the background of the commercial before it. So they're 2-second screen experiences, right. But they're actually, I would argue, those are the first screens because the game is what's happening in the background in many cases. So again, it's a lot of words here, but the point is that mobile device is the most personal product, and I think tapping into how that personal experience can be projected or redistributed or shared is what I think is really interesting about that specific platform.
Yeah. NBC was a pioneer around online video, premium online video with Hulu and going into business with News Corp Fox on that. Where does Hulu and other over-the-top services, Netflix and Amazon Prime being along with Hulu some of the biggest today, where does that fit into, which are also mobile as well as on a laptop? Where do those fit for you, especially having the kind of library of premium content that an NBCU has?
So I won't talk about any of those specific players individually. I think when you look at bigger media companies just generally, not just NBCUniversal, I think we're first and foremost services that are in the business of selling our content to and selling a package of content to various distribution channels. I think the interesting thing for the consumer is that there is a lot more flexibility in how you get that content and what types of episodes you get, whether it's hour-long episodes, whether it's clips of Jimmy Fallon, or whether it's the live experience. Different platforms seem to offer different pieces of value for different consumers, and I think the real opportunity for a consumer in this equation is that you have the ability to sort of customize what you want in a way that you haven't in years past. Our challenge as media companies hasn't really changed all that much, which is how do we get the biggest audience of consumers for our content? How do we make our content that's relevant to the widest number of people in a way that will enable any distributor to pay for us for our content?
For so long there's this debate about whether digital media, is it going to cannibalize traditional or be a supplement? Is that still a relevant argument, or is it kind of all of the above? How do you, and there's no one answer, but how do you approach that, and especially how do you approach it when you're trying to develop new things for people to spend more time in that mobile or digital environment?
So I think that's a broader question about innovation in general, which is that how do you balance the allure of the new with the comfort of the existing, which is again the discovery question we're dealing with. And I think anytime you're faced with the prospect of experimenting with a new platform, a new distribution channel, a new way of doing business, you have to ask whether this is an existing market or whether you're anticipating consumer demand. Does it have the potential to be significant for consumers? Does it deliver something of value to the consumer that they don't currently get? And then you have to balance that with, all right, well, what we do right now, does this new thing dilute the value of what we do right now? And I think ultimately, the consumer over the long term wins in the big picture. So, trying to hang on to the old forever, just ask the newspaper guys. It doesn't work over the long term. But you have to do things in the near term that are smart for your business. So you can't just especially when you have a very large business, you can't just cavalierly say, all right, well, we're doing everything that gives consumers new forms of distribution without thinking about where is the business today.
Yeah.
Again, long way of saying that. I think all media companies are very interested in making sure that their most popular shows are available to consumers so that consumers can watch more of those shows. That's in the interest of media companies. The challenge is that you have an existing business that sometimes makes that a difficult goal to achieve.
So I want to ask you we're at Columbia Business School, kind of the inside of Columbia Business School question, which is for people looking to go into the business. Talk a little bit maybe about your team and the people that kind of you're surrounded with, and what kinds of innovation and as you say, last week this is the hottest thing and next week it's not, and what are the sorts of skill sets that you need to have, that you're really focused on building to be successful in kind of the constantly reinventing world that you're in?
Right. So I think this is the core of any company's challenge in innovation, is how do you put the right people in place to help you go into the future of your business. And I alluded to this before, that you have to have an eye towards what are consumers doing, and that has to be the true north of what is in the best interest of the consumer. But in many cases, that is, that's a hard thing to divine. Often you can't just ask the consumer, because the consumer doesn't know exactly what they want.
Something they haven't seen yet. How are they supposed to react to it?
Now that said, they are able to give you signals about the types of things that they're interested in. So having people that are sensitive to what is out there in the marketplace, that actually eat the dog food, that use digital products, that use new products, that are comfortable with that just trying new things in that way, so that they can look at products as a consumer as opposed to simply as a business person. I think that's really important, as if you're getting into an innovation type of role. I think the other really critical piece of that in terms of putting people in place here, is that you want to have people that are comfortable with a level of ambiguity inside of the company, that don't always necessarily fit into, all right, this is the role that I do. I am the marketing person, and I will always market this stuff. I mean, that's very often launching new products crosses disciplinary lines. I mean, you have people that are out there. You want to have people that are comfortable with bringing new ideas to the forefront and being willing to put their name to things that may not work. I think that's that willingness to take a certain amount of risk inside of an organization is really important, and having a level of tolerance for that level of ambiguity on the as an executive, but then having that level of acceptance of people who are willing to sort of navigate through the white spaces and just find ways to make things happen. I think that's really critical.
Salil, thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us this evening on CITI Media Reporter. I'm Howard Hominoff. Good night.